Both Granny and my dad were proud of being Irish. And you know what they say about the stubborn Irish and always wanting to get the last word. Well, it is an honor to be standing here giving the last words that outline the wonderful life my grandmother led. I could stand up here all day and brag about what an incredible woman Granny was. It's that easy to recount all the positives of her life when she was such a positive person every minute of the day. The thing is, Alzheimer's is a horrible disease. It not only robbed Granny of many of her precious memories, but it robbed us of ours as well. These last few years, Granny's been fading away in front of our very eyes. Of course, she let her true nature show through just as much as ever. She thanked us for caring for her, even when she didn't realize who we were. She still wanted to get up and help with chores, even when she couldn't remember she wasn't able to anymore. She was the helpful, giving, loving, gracious woman she always was. But as her memories faded, I think some of ours did too. My goal today is to bring Granny back to life, to remember her amazing accomplishments and the nuances and idiosyncrasies that made her her. They say to lead by example. Boy, did she. I'm not just throwing out nice characteristics for the sake of saying nice things. Granny earned these descriptions, and there are a dozen life stories to exemplify each one. Let's start with determined. As the sign hung in Granny's room says, I'd give up chocolate, but I'm no quitter. She wasn't. She dropped out of high school as a teenager because her father was sick and she needed to care for her 5 younger siblings. She may have had to stop going to school. She didn't quit. She went back in her 40s and she earned a high school diploma. In another testimony to her perseverance, she'd always wanted to learn to drive. She wasn't going to let the fact that she didn't own a car and lived in Boston stop her. She took lessons and she secured a driver's license that she was proud to use up into her 90s. And that determination stuck with her throughout the decades. At 80, she decided she wanted to be able to do 100 push-ups, and it may have taken her 2 years to build up the strength. She didn't give up, and at age 82, my grandmother could do 100 consecutive push-ups, like a boss. Granny was also incredibly independent. Even in recent weeks when she wasn't often speaking, we heard one of her signature phrases, "You shouldn't have to do that." She never thought of herself as old. And despite her many years on this planet, she surely never acted her age, and I believe that's what kept her young. She wasn't one to sit back and let others do things for her, she could do them herself. She always wanted to help, be it with chores around my house or taking care of Lily or anything else she ever saw someone else doing. And speaking of catchphrases, you know how she got that bat on? She was at a church function in Downey and was helping a little old lady down off the bleachers after having had a group photo. The little old lady fell, and they both went down after Granny tried to catch her and injured Granny's shoulder. And the kicker is that that little old lady was about 2 decades younger than Granny. And Granny never could be bothered to slow down enough to leave her arm in the sling so it could properly heal. I remember watching her take her arm out of the sling to reach down and open the garage door at her house in Downey. She wasn't going to let anything slow her down. And as she said, if you don't use it, you lose it. She had a wonderful sense of humor. I remember whenever we would come to visit her at her apartment at Heritage, and she would joke around about how her boyfriend had just left. Or when she would teasingly hit on my Edward Cullen life-size stand-ups, or even my own husband. She loved to get a laugh and a smile out of people. She was so endearing that some things she said without even realizing how hilarious they were. A favorite of mine and Ben's is when she would say she didn't like cats, she would always amend it with, "But I would never hurt one." And with that sense of humor came a youthful attitude and a willingness to try anything. After retiring, she traveled to Europe and rode a camel. She learned to use my rollerblades when she was in her 80s. She didn't want to sit on the sidelines while he played the Just Dance video game, and that led to her being a YouTube sensation with over 1 million views and winning second place in a dance competition at the age of 97. She was a strong woman. She never complained. She never felt sorry for herself. And she never had anything bad to say about anybody. And I'm not just saying that, I really mean it. I can't recall her ever complaining. Even when she was battling cancer and enduring both chemo and radiation, she would walk down the hallway to the dining room at Heritage. Before she rounded that corner, she'd perk right up, shoulders back, head up, and walk into that room like she owned the place. Her blood may run through my veins, but I'm not even a fraction of the amazing woman she was. But I have been fortunate enough to have her in my life as an example of how to live life to the fullest. I believe she had no regrets. She lived, and she will continue to live on through all of us. May we spend each day striving to be as honest, as gracious, as loving, and as pure as she was. While Granny's passing left behind many people who loved her very much, the silver lining to having outlived so many people is that they were all up in heaven waiting for her with open arms. She spoke often of her parents this past year, and I'm happy to know she is back with them, and her husband, her siblings, her son. We will always remember her and forever miss her. But after 99 years, as Granny would say, when you gotta go, you gotta go.